Hello class, today we're going to talk about SOHCAHTOA. Alright, so far in this class we've learned that the sine of a t-value is equal to y over r, the cosine of a t-value is equal to x over r, the tangent of a t-value is equal to y over x. Well, what is this t-value? Alright, t-value, the t, is a distance along the perimeter of a circle. Since this circle has a radius of 1. We know that the t value, because s equals r theta, this is our arc length, we know then that this distance around the edge has to equal the angle inside. These two have to be equal because if r is 1, this cancels out. So arc length has to equal theta. So we found out that our t value was going to equal our angle inside. So these are the first three ratios we figured out. We also figured out the reciprocal functions. Today we're going to talk about something called SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA is the start of learning how to do trigonometry when the radius is not equal to 0. When the radius is not equal to 1. If the radius is equal to 1, what you know is going to be just fine for trigonometry, but sometimes the radius is going to change, and we're not to that point yet. First we need to figure out this thing called SOHCAHTOA. So the first thing we're going to try and learn is SOHCAHTOA. Well, what is SOHCAHTOA? Let's start by having two right triangles, and let's come up with what is a worldwide universal language for mathematics. Is you could talk to somebody in a different country and they would have an idea of what SOHCAHTOA is. That's how universal math can be. But it starts with a process of looking at a right triangle. So if I'm looking at this triangle with respect to this angle in the top left, either I have the angle or I'm going to use that angle, then I can start naming these sides. The first side I'm going to name is the opposite side, because it's opposite of the angle that I have or that I'm looking for. The side right next to it, we're going to call adjacent. Okay, next to adjacent, they mean the same thing. The longest side is always going to be the hypotenuse. Okay, that's if we choose the angle in the top left. Well, what if we would have picked the other angle? Okay, what if we would have picked this angle down in the lower right? Okay, well, we're going to use the same three letters, O, A, and H. This time the opposite side will go here because it's opposite of your angle. The side next to, again, will be the adjacent because it's next to our angle. And then we have the hypotenuse will always stay in the same spot. The hypotenuse is the longest side. All right, well, what do we do? How do we use this? Well, we know that sine from before was equal to y over r. What we're going to say for some of the problems we're going to use, and this works for every problem actually, but some of the problems it's going to be much easier to use the fact that sine is also opposite over hypotenuse. That will work much easier for you, again, for some problems, instead of y over r. Well, how do we get sine opposite hypotenuse? That's what this acronym SOHCAHTOA stands for. Okay, each letter represents something. This represents sine, this represents opposite, this represents hypotenuse. So sine of an angle equals the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. All right, well, what about these three letters? You can maybe already guess. All right, cosine of an angle is going to equal the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. Cosine, adjacent, hypotenuse. Okay. Lastly, we have TOA. Okay. TOA will stand for tangent of an angle is equal to the opposite side divided by the adjacent. So there you have it. SOHCAHTOA is an acronym. Each letter stands for something. Sine, opposite, hypotenuse. Cosine, adjacent, hypotenuse. Tangent, opposite, adjacent. They will still also equal what we've learned before, but for some problems, for some problems, you'll find that SOHCAHTOA is easier than using x, y, and r. All right, thanks for listening. Hope this helps.